Okay. Hello. Hello. I'm just bored. And my parents are leaving to go somewhere, so. Hello, chat. Hello. Hi. Hi. Okay. Hello. 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 Hello, everyone. I'm currently on I'm making a video, but it's not a BSD one. So it's not a video you would expect. Well, kind of is, but okay. Who here knows of the Dream SMP? So for the people who don't know, I used to be a Dream SMP gacha tuber. Most specifically, I was a Sleepy Boys Incorporated gacha tuber before I did Sukoku. I'm currently back on SBI Brain Rot, so if you see Dream SMP vids from me, don't get surprised because I'm kind of back in the rabbit hole. So, who was your favorite member? Techno and Tommy. I was very much a Bedrock Bros truther. Still am, as you can tell by my profile picture. Bedrock Bros was my lifeline, and I loved them. Okay. Okay. I'm back on SBI Brain Rot. My possessive SBI bias is showing again, and low-key, I'm not really doing anything to stop it because, why not? Sorry, my dad came into the room, so I had to mute. I don't really have anything to talk about. I'm just bored, not gonna lie. I don't really have anything to yap about. Ow. I guess I hung out with my friends today, so that's something. I guess. Oh, that's so fucking short. Nope, I will not survive that. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay. I don't really have anything to fill. I don't really have anything to fill the silence with. Not gonna lie. I could sing, I guess, but I don't really know what to sing. Kind of a problem. It's like the same fucking shade. Or am I tweaking? I don't know. I woke up at like 1 a.m. and now it's 5 and I don't know what to do with myself. It is currently 6 p.m. for me. Kind of a miracle today that I woke up at 7 a.m. because I usually wake up at 5 a.m. So my life has been boring. Life has been weird. I mean, it's always weird, not gonna lie, but what else can I do? What else can I do? This year has sucked. It has, actually. I don't want to rant, but it has sucked. Especially for my fuck ass country. But, oh my god. This country's been in shambles. Shambles, I tell you. Shambles. Do you draw? I do. Usually when I go live, I'm drawing, but I haven't had the motivation to draw, especially because I've been drawing for like the past 2 weeks. Parents were in the room. God dang it. Okay. That door scared me for a second. That was my dad. When I go silent, it's probably because my parents entered a room and I have to mute. God. Oh. Okay. Okay. That is way too long of a fucking duration. Jesus. I need to stop elongating shit. Yeah. I just finished another SB. Oh my fucking god! They keep calling for me. Oh my god. I'm kind of hungry, but I don't know what to eat. Food? I don't know, chat. What food do you have available? Okay. I will be uploading today, but it is not BSD. It is gonna be SBI because possessive SBI streak is showing. SBI brain rot is strong. Not gonna lie, my fucking bed is fucking dusty. Okay, anyway. I might make ramen. Yeah, go do that. Go eat, bruh. I want to eat dazai. Interesting. Interesting. Give me a sec. Okay. Hello. Okay. Okay. get down, gonna come around. We work together, like when the crowds get up, get down, gonna come around. Okay. What can I yap about? I'm bored. But I don't have a shit to yap. I'm such a yapper, but I don't have a topic. My god. Get up, get down, come on. If we work together, help twilight bring. I need AO3 tags, not gonna lie. Ramen is not in the microwave. Hey! Should I read fanfiction to you guys? What if I just read fanfiction to you guys? This is not if you squint, it is quite literally dark SBI. I'm just gonna take this off. Okay. Give me a sec. I'm making like an SBI vid continuation to what the fuck. Okay. Hello! I actually was reading fanfics before I joined. I love reading fanfiction. Fanfiction is my love. Okay. So. Okay. I could do something. I could read fanfiction. What fanfic should we read, chat? Because I can read fanfics. Because I'm bored and I don't really have a topic. What fanfic should we read? 3 minutes till ramen. Hey, okay. What fanfic should we read? I really love your work. I always do BSD. Thank you, I appreciate it. What fanfic should we read, chat? Don't really have a fanfic in mind, not gonna lie. Like, I mean, I do, sort of, but, like, they're SBI, and, like, and like, I don't really have, like, any fucking video or, like, a fanfic in mind. Get up, get down, gonna come around if you... Okay. This doesn't have fucking music, I'm an idiot. Okay, anyway. What's a good fic? We could pod fic right now, chat. Wait, I need to put, like, background music on this, I'm an idiot. Okay, wait. I'm dumb, I forgot. What if I just paste later? I just, like, extract this audio. Wait, that fucking works. That's really funny. Okay. Okay, I have a video to upload, but it is not BSD. It is fucking SBI. Why are you like this? Here. I'm just gonna probably upload this real quick. Okay. What fic? What fic? Cause I'm bored, chat. Should we do one of my favorite Dead Chia fics? Cause I will. I will read Dead Chia. I will read it. It's like one of my favorite Dead Chia fics. Should we read one of my favorite Dead Chia fics? I love Dead Chia. Dead Chia is my Roman Empire. I have some favorites. What if I read it? Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm just gonna upload this real quick, and then I'll be. Wait, no, I'm gonna upload this later because I have to make the thumbnail. Okay, fanfiction. We're gonna read. Wait. Wait a sec. Ramen is out of the microwave. Hey, let's go. Okay, what is this fic? I have a bunch of AO3 tabs open. What is this? I'll read that later. Or something. What do I have here? I have this. Oh wow. Okay. Okay. We're gonna read one of my favorite ever fics, Putting the Dog to Sleep. Is this it? That is not it. What the hell? What the fuck? It disappeared. What the hell? Okay, wait, give me a sec. Give me a damn second. Relationship. Does I? Sami Nakahara Chia. Okay. I think it's a one shot, not gonna lie. No, not that. Is this it? Yeah, I think this is it. Okay. Okay, chat. This is one of my favorite. I really need to fucking bookmark this because I keep forgetting. Wait, my internet is shit right now. We are currently reading. I don't even actually know if this is it. Oh my god. There we go. Is it, wait, I'm just gonna read through to see if this is it. Ramen is now yummy. A. Okay. Okay, this is it. I love this one. Okay. Okay, chat. Are we ready? Are we ready? We are currently reading Putting the Dog to Sleep by Mallow Mango. Summary. Okay, I sound like a podficker, but you know what? Who's complaining? Definitely not me. Summary. Wait. I don't know how to do this, but we're gonna wing it. Why are you looking at me? Because I want to. Or The story of two boys desperately trying to pull each other out of the darkness. There's a lot of shit here. Okay. Yep. Keep in mind, this is dead Shuya, so expect dead Shuya. Okay. The first time the Port Mafia ever witnessed Dazai make a miscalculation was when Nakahara Chuya first used corruption. Dazai was so distracted. Hello! I am reading fic. I am reading a fic. It's one of my favorites. It's Dead Chuya. So expect Dead Chuya. Okay? Expect it. But, okay, where was I? Dazai was so distracted, so wrapped up in the beautiful chaos that was his partner's true ability, that he wasn't sure what to do for the first time in his life. It was the first time that Mori had yelled at him, shouting at him through his earpiece to move, to grab Chuya and reconnect his soul with his body. And Dazai did just that, catching the shorter boy's wrist as he raised it to strike. I don't like reading aloud, but hey. Catching the shorter boy's wrist as he raised it to strike the earth once more. It's a Sakoku fic. It is, but it is Dead Shuya. My favorite flavor. In the white light of his ability, Dazai could see Chuya's unfocused eyes, as they seemed less fiery than the eyes he had come to know for the past few months. Chuya's eyes always had a certain intensity to them, always burning with hate or shining with admiration. His eyes now were dulled, as if corruption had stolen away a piece of his soul, reflecting in the windows of his pupils. It was also the first time Dazai had ever seen the boy look vulnerable. Dead Chuya makes me sad. Dead Chuya makes me happy. It gives the opposite effect to me. I love Dead Chuya. It's one of my favorite AUs. Okay, where was I? They were always on guard around each other, trying to be the smartest, strongest one out of the duo. But corruption had left Chuya wide open and defenseless in its aftermath. Dazai could tell from his eyes, and the way his wrist went limp in his grip. Dazai caught Chuya as the redhead swayed, knees buckling. He remained limp in Dazai's arms, and his chest twisted painfully. Come back to me, Chuya. I'm more of a fluff gal. Okay, listen. You guys know how my content is like mostly fluff. Dead Chuya fuels fluff. So like, if you guys want me to continue making fluff, I require more Dead Chuya. It is a basic cycle. Okay. Anyway, shit. Okay. Anyway, where are we? Okay. Come back to me, Chuya. The brunette was filled with relief as Chuya's eyes slowly regained focus, the usual blue intensity coming back. Dazai? I don't know how to do voice lines. It's weird. Dazai? Chuya's voice was raw from screaming his lungs out, and he coughed feebly. I'm here. I'm here? Sorry. I'm trying to take this seriously. Anyway. I'm here. You're okay, Dazai said. He looked over at Chuya's injuries, blood trickling down his eyelids, and grimaced. Was that Arahabaki? Yeah, Chuya muttered. I could feel myself losing control. Interesting. Guys, what? Mori breathe, not breath. Breathe. Mori breathed in wonder through the earpiece, and Dazai had to resist the urge to rip it out and stomp on it. I could tell, Dazai murmured. He sighed. This was the most powerful ability he's ever seen. Do you guys want to know, any of you guys know about Bungo Stray Dogs 1 Season 2? I saw the announcement, I guess, but, I mean, hey, we got Season 2, 1, but, I don't really care. Not gonna lie. You wouldn't expect any less from a literal god, but its consequences were severe. How are you feeling? Huh? Chuya asked, visibly confused that those words were coming out of Dazai's mouth. Dazai rolled his eyes. Just answer the question, Chibi. She sighed, too weak to retort. Everything hurts. I feel weak. It's taking a toll on your body, Dazai stated. Don't push it. The redhead shot a weak glare at Dazai. I didn't really have an option there. I couldn't rein in my ability. Dazai flashed a smile at him. Good thing I'm here then. For when you can't control yourself, just like a rabid dog. He wrapped his arms around Chia's waist as the redhead swore at him. 1 second, I'm gonna get a drink. Be right back. Okay, chat. Do you want me to continue reading or like wait? I don't know if you can tell which ones are dialogue and which one is reading, because I can't change my voice, because it sounds fucking weird when I do. I can do British accents though. Dazai snickered. I can do British accents. Like, let me read this one paragraph. Okay. The redhead shot a weak glare at Dazai. I don't really have an option there. I couldn't rein in my ability. Okay, welcome back, chat. I can do a British accent, sort of. Sort of. Not much, but sort of. Okay, let's get back to headquarters. The brunette started walking, and Trio hobbled along with him. But his legs buckled underneath him, and Dazai had to catch him again. Dazai snickered. Wow. I know I'm irresistible, but you don't have to keep falling for... Shut up, Chia growled through gritted teeth. Oh my god, English, Jesus. Through gritted teeth. There we go. Trying to take another step, but his legs just weren't working, and he fell right back into Dazai's arms. What I said still stands. However, I can't witness this train wreck anymore, Dazai said, rolling his eyes, and slipped his arms around Chia's back and legs, lifting him up. Chia protested weakly, but Dazai silenced him. This is embarrassing for both of us. Not a single word, okay? The redhead scowled, but resigned himself to his fate, letting himself be carried as he clung to Dazai's shoulders. The brunette held him closer, trying to lessen the strain on the... What? That is not the right grammar. Give me a sec. Trying... What? Wait, what? Huh? Trying to lessen the strain on the Chia's arms. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be on Chia's arms. There's a the for some reason. Okay. Rem, where did you read the fic at? It's on AO3. It's, Putting the Dog to Sleep by Mallow Mango. Mallow_mango. It's AO3. I'll maybe put the link of this, but I can't right now because I can't open shit. Okay. Okay, where are they? And the redhead buried his head into Dazai's chest. Dazai tried to ignore Mori's cackles through the earpiece. The walk to the car, which was waiting for them on the curb, was long, his biceps screaming with protest from carrying Chuya all that way. The drive was even longer, as Dazai bought Chuya's head onto his shoulder. The redhead had passed out from exhaustion. The long drive did give him time to think. But this new development was... not the best. Dazai knew how loyal Chuya was. And now that Mori knew the full extent of the redhead's abilities, the man would likely exploit it until he bled himself dry. Ew, I found hair in my bowl. Ah, what the hell? Yeah. Wait. Where was I? Sorry, my friend texted me. Where was I? Okay, there we go. As always, Dazai ended up being right. Because in the next couple of months, Chuya had used corruption more times than he could count. And he rose to the ranks of an executive, right along with Dazai. The brunette always felt disgusted when he was reminded of that fact, but Chuya thought, oh my god, English words. My god. Hey. The brunette always felt disgusted when he was reminded of the fact, but Tria thought that it was just because Dazai was being bitter and petty. It wasn't. But Dazai let Tria believe that, because he knew that Mori had the boy on a leash, and he didn't know how to cut him free. Words are hard. Exactly. English words are hard. So they became the strongest duo in Yokohama, double black, all while Tria's body was continually wrecking itself. The aftermath of corruption was even worse than its use. Dazai witnessed it. In the nights after a harder mission where he could walk in the hallways and hear Tria's screams of pain as Mori fixed his body after his ability wrecked it. He had to force himself to ignore it every time. There was nothing he could do to help. Not even Koya's burning eyes could stir him into action, because there wasn't any action to be taken. She knew that as well. Oh, ew, what the fuck, why did I read it like that? She knew that as well. But as much as Dazai despised it, with this new development came change. It started when Mori made Tria and Dazai get an apartment together so that they could take care of each other. Tria kept Dazai in his sight and made sure when things got too bad, he would be there when Dazai tried to off himself, keeping his lungs breathing and heart beating. Where okay. Dazai kept Tria in his sight and made sure that after a day of missions, he tended to Tria's stitched up wounds, comforting him along a long night under Mori's surgical blade. They both refused to admit it, but they liked being roomed together. At first, they objected against Mori's wishes with all they had, and had fought with tooth and claw the first week or so. But when they finally settled in, it was kind of nice. I was away for a minute. Did I miss something? Not really. I'm just reading through it. They live in the same apartment now, so I guess that's something. It was nice for Dazai to have someone wrap his arms in bandages when he was shaking too badly to do it himself. It was nice for Tria to have somebody carry him to bed when his legs were too weak to walk across the apartment. And before they knew it, the two of them had formed not only a partnership, but something closer than that. They could make each other cry with laughter, and were always by each other's side, taking trips to the arcade on their days off. It was almost like they were friends. Sure, most times they opened their mouth, it was to argue, and commonly had wars over whose turn it was to do the laundry. But there wasn't exactly a rule book to what being friends meant. And Dazai was pretty sure that if somebody held you in their arms at 3 a.m, as you cried from night terrors, stroking your hair and whispering soft words of reassurance that qualified as friendship. But even if they never talked about it, never mentioned it in the morning, they both knew it happened. And no matter how much they claimed to hate each other, no matter how many times they argued, people who hated each other just didn't. What? Okay, I'm gonna ignore that typo. Just didn't take care of each other that way. Oh wait, no. They just didn't take each other the way that Dazai and Tria took care of each other. And even as 3 years of friendship flew by in a flurry of arcade trips, drunk nights, and fights side by side, things were bound to come to an end. Because when you were a member of the Port Mafia, sometimes the darkness crept too close. Prove to me I'm not gonna die alone. Put your arm around my collarbone and open the door. I don't know if that's a song lyric that's like, it's like a middle line. You know when like paragraphs break, there's like a quote in the middle and then a continuation of another paragraph, but you know what I mean. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. I lost him. Dazai stood. Huh? What? Sorry, I was just quiet for a sec. Uh, I lost him. Dazai stood in front of his apartment door, feeling cold and numb. He didn't want to open the door, because that meant he had to look down, and if he did, he would see the blood all over his hands. He could still feel it. He could still feel it, though, warm against his cold skin. He felt sick. He didn't know how long he stood there, staring at the door, waiting for it to open. The concept of time meant nothing to him as he stood there, perfectly still, even though his head was reeling. But suddenly the door actually did open, and on the other side was Chia, grabbing his hat off the oh my god, grabbing his hat off the coat rack in a hurry, phone pressed to his ear. No, boss, he hasn't come back yet. Chia froze at the sight of Dazai standing in the hall with a blank expression on his face. Dazai? Ew, why was that so soft? Dazai? Oh my god. How do I do that? Dazai? Dazai? I don't know. Anyway, Dazai simply shouldered his way past Chia and walked into the apartment to stand in the center of the living room, unsure of what to do. All he could feel was the blood on his hands, still there, still staining his consciousness. It was filthy. It was filthy. Yeah, boss, I'll call you back. Yes, he's here now. Dazai heard the door slam shut behind him, and Chia's voice got louder as he walked towards Dazai. Got it, boss. Yeah, I know, yeah. Okay, bye. Dazai heard a click as the line went dead. And then there was a silence. He could feel Chia's presence behind him. Dazai, what happened? Boss didn't tell me any. Chia cut himself off as Dazai turned around. Pardon what happened. I zoned out reading a Demon Slayer fic. Okay. From context clues, this is after Oda died, and Dazai is back in their apartment. I'm just reading this aloud because I'm bored, but I do love this fucking fic. Okay. Where was I? Chia cut himself off as Dazai turned around, and then oh god, excuse me. Had a burp. Jeez. Okay. Okay. Where was I? Okay. And then Chia finally registered in his mind what his partner was covered in. Oh, no. That his partner was covered in blood. Fuck. Chia stared in shock for a moment, and then seemed to snap himself out of it, shaking his head. Wordlessly, Chia grabbed Dazai's wrist and practically dragged him into the bathroom. Dazai's legs weren't exactly working. He couldn't feel them. He couldn't really feel anything. Somehow, they made it to the bathroom, and Chia hurriedly turned the sink faucet on. He placed Dazai's hands underneath the water, and Dazai was grateful for the coolness of it, washing away that awful warmth. He could see Chia's confusion as the blood washed away to reveal undamaged bandages, because it wasn't his own blood. Dazai, what happened? Dazai shook his head silently. His tongue felt heavy in his mouth, and he was sure that if he tried to recount what happened, he wouldn't be able to get through the sentence. You need to tell me what happened so that I can help you, Chia said exasperatedly. Dazai was able to speak then. I don't need your help. Chia rolled his eyes. Obviously, you need my help. You wandered into our apartment like a kicked puppy, hands covered in God knows whose blood, and you've only spoken 5 words in the past 5 minutes when usually your big mouth would have suppressed 1,000 words by now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, chat. Have a good day, bro. Bye-bye. Woo! Okay. Where was I? Yeah. Dazai scowled at that and shot his head up. Eyes meeting Chia's in mirror. He simply glared weakly, unable to shoot a biting response back with the tight feeling in his throat, and turned the sink off aggressively. He dried his hands off on a towel, threw it down onto the countertop, then stormed to their bedroom. Their bedroom? Okay, bruh. There's denial. Denial's a river in Egypt. Your husband. Okay, I'm gonna shut up. Okay. Wait, my friend is texting me. Give me a sec. Okay. What gotcha life I use? Gotcha club. Okay, there we go. Okay. He dried his hands off on a towel, threw it down to the countertop, then stormed to their bedroom, slamming the door shut in Tria's face. He sat on their bed and rested his elbows on his knees, hands covering his face. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw blooded hands and Oda's lifeless face. So he settled for staring at their plain closet doors, barely distinguishable in the dark room. The silence was broken as the doorknob rattled violently. Dazai didn't even realize he had locked the door behind him, but he simply didn't have the energy to stand up and open it. Dazai, open the door before I kick it in! Chia shouted from outside. Banging his fist on the door, Dazai didn't respond, instead curling into himself, bringing his knees up and hugging them into his chest. Chia continued to bash on the door for what felt like hours to Dazai, the noise droning on and on until he was used to it. But suddenly, it stopped. Dazai blinked, jarred by the sudden silence, until the door was blown apart with the force of a single kick. Dazai didn't even flinch or turn around as the splintered wood rained around him. He heard a frustrated groan. Then the bed and then the bed dipped beside him, and he turned his head to see Chia sitting next to him. You're getting us a new door. Dazai remained silent, then turned his head back to the closet doors. He had been staring for so long that his eyes had adjusted to the darkness. I almost just laid on my dog's head. Hello! Hello, puppy. Tell your dog I said hello. My dogs are outside. I don't know where they are. I'm in my room, so. Pupper. He'd been staring for so long that his eyes had adjusted to the darkness, and he could see Chia's gloved hand fidgeting in his peripheral vision. Usamu. At that, Dazai's eyes widened, and he turned his head, feeling as if he had just been snapped out of a trance. Chia rarely ever called him by his first name. Talk to me, Chia pleaded. And maybe it was the use of his first name, or the desperate tone in Chia's voice, but he felt a twinge in his heart. And it was the first thing he felt in the past hour, beside the warm blood that had been on his hands. So he spoke. It was Oda's blood. What? Chia blurted out, dumbfounded. Where is... He's dead. With those two words, the room fell silent, and Dazai looked away. Chia scooted closer to Dazai, turning his knees so that their legs were touching. The feeling of Chia's leg against his was searing in contrast to how cold everything else felt, but Dazai couldn't bring himself to move away. Dazai, look at me. The brunette silently obeyed, all the fighting having left his body. Chia simply looked at him, eyes searching his face for answers. Tell me exactly what happened. Dazai looked at those eyes, those confused, tired eyes, and caved. Oda decided to go against Mimic. Oda Saku. Okay. Chia leaned towards Dazai, his expression shifting into one of shock and confusion. Why? I thought he didn't kill. They murdered the orphans he was taking care of. Dazai murmured, abducted them and killed them in an explosion. Dazai felt Chia tense next to him, as those words sank in. Sank? Or sunk? You know what? I'm not gonna question it. I love cuddling my puppies. I would cuddle my dogs, but they low-key stinky as hell, so I don't. They stinky ass puppers. Stinky. They were only kids. I know, Dazai said quietly, but that didn't mean anything to them. He shook his head, slowly as anger started bubbling up in his chest. Mori was the one who let Mimic know about the orphans under Oda's care. Boss did it? You gotta accept the stink? No! They're stinky. Stinky puppy. They're adorable. But they're stinky. No. Stink. Chia asked, incredulously. The more that Dazai thought back on it, the anger was flowing faster through his veins, growing stronger and stronger with each memory that pained his soul. He made a deal with the gifted Special Ops Division. They needed a Mimic to be eliminated, and Mori needed a gifted business permit. He stood up, face twisting bitterly. Oda was the only way. Oda... he eliminated Mimic? Chia asked, also standing up. He killed every last one of them. Dazai whispered, and faced death as a consequence. Boss... he planned all of this? Chia asked, his voice wavering slightly. Mori... Dazai grit his teeth. And now the anger was starting to overflow, filling his soul with hatred. Mori used him. He planned the whole thing. He knew that Oda would go through with it if his kids were dead. That was convenient for him. Dazai spat. His voice was raising higher and higher in volume, and he clenched his fingernails into his fist until they hurt, filled with pure, unbridled rage. It was all for a fucking gifted business permit, a transaction at the stake of Oda's life, and I just let it happen. Dazai, it's not your fault. But I should have done something. I should have gone after him sooner. You're only human, Dazai. You couldn't have known, but I did know. And Mori just... Dazai shook his head, chin trembling. His voice had climbed so high in volume, that he was practically yelling. Oh my god. Oh god. His voice had climbed so high in volume that he was practically yelling now, fury fueling his words. He just let him get put down like a fucking dog. Dazai, I am sure boss had his reasons. He's always doing what's best for his organization. What fucking reason? He had no right. Throwing Oda's life away. Dazai, please, calm down, just... Chia pleaded, stepping forward and placing a hand on Dazai's shoulder. I will not fucking calm down. I lost him! Dazai shouted, slapping Chia's hand off, bones burning with spite and anger and hate as he whirled around, ready to throw his fists and feel the power of something breaking under his knuckles. But then his eyes met Chia's, and everything was brought to a pause, because his partner had never looked at him with so much fear before. Dazai stood, staring at Chia. With a look at those eyes, the sound of blood rushing in his head went away, replaced with the sound of his own heavy breathing. All his rage slowly melted away, instead replaced by unmistakable, irreparable grief. His eyes watered involuntarily, and his eyes came up to cover his face. Chia cut his wrists though, and Dazai stilled, gazing at Shia, blinking away at the tears. Thus I could see that there wasn't fear in his partner's eyes anymore. It was sadness. Chia pulled Dazai's hand away from his face, instead wrapping Dazai's arms around his shoulders and pulling him into a warm embrace. The brunette buried his face into Chia's shoulder, too ridden with grief to pull away, and he sobbed. Chia said nothing, simply rubbing Dazai's back reassuringly, and letting the brunette melt into his embrace. Dazai was grateful for those arms, strong and steady. They brought a comforting and familiar warmth, so different from the blood on his hands. They stood there for what could have been hours, soft moonlight washing over them, as Dazai's tears slowly dried, constantly wiped away by his partner's gloved hands. Later that night, Dazai laid awake, wide awake, in bed. He still couldn't let his eyes close, refused his mind to wander back to the past. The bedroom door opened and Chia wandered in, shutting the door behind him softly. Dazai lifted his head as something warm was draped over him. It was a blanket, a decidedly soft one, and it smelled distinctly like Chia. On God, it is raining so hard right now. Like, legit, it is raining. Ow. Okay. Here. Here. The redhead said quietly. Dazai tugged the blanket tighter around himself, bringing his knees into his chest. I'm gonna go for now. Bye-bye! Bye-bye, chat! Bye-bye! Bye-bye! Thank you. Ew. 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 It is not read that way. Thank you. Dazai whispered. His voice felt so small. He wasn't even sure if Chia... Oh, good. Excuse me? Where was I? Yeah. He wasn't even sure if Chia heard it, but he did. Don't thank me, Chia murmured, the bed dipping as he climbed onto it. It's weird. Dazai huffed out a laugh, but he knew the deeper meaning of his thanks had flown right over Chia's head. He was thanking him for much more than just the blanket. A draft of cold air hit Dazai's side as the blanket was lifted up, and then it was replaced with the warmth of Chia's body next to him, subconsciously turned into that heat, and Chia noticed, carefully bringing Dazai closer. Dazai let himself relax in Chia's arms, resting his head on the executive's chest. Chia wrapped the blanket tighter around them, running his hand through Dazai's hair as he sighed contentedly. It wasn't the first time they'd held each other, but it meant so much to Dazai to have this one familiarity when everything else in his life was so unsteady. They lay there in silence as their breathing slowed, and eventually, the hand in Dazai's hair stilled. He carefully looked up. Moonlight was filtering through the curtain to the curtain-free window, illuminating illuminating Chia's freckled face. His eyes were closed, and he had fallen into a deep slumber, breath coming slowly but surely. Dazai felt himself being lulled slowly to sleep too, but he kept snapping his eyes open, fearful for what they would see in the darkness. Instead, he let his nerves be soothed. Wait. Hello, Levi! 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 Oh wait, no. That's not Levi. Not bad. Yeah. It said... Ugh. Shit. Okay. Okay. Where the fuck was I? What? What do you mean you can't hear me? Hello? Can you not hear me still? Wait. Hello? Uh. Hello? Can you still not hear me? Okay, you can? Okay, that's good. Okay. Hello? Hello, hello, hello? 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 Okay. My bad. Somebody was texting me, so I was quiet for a bit. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm reading a fanfic. Yes, I have a question. Okay, what is it? Hello? Hello? Untamed? I did actually. I did watch the Untamed. It was a fun watch. I did watch the Untamed. Out of 10, rate it. I'd say a 7. It has good good actors. I did enjoy it, and the clothing were really good and the settings. But I didn't really like the fact that they changed a lot of the original plot. I think I got annoyed by that. Cause who the fuck is Shu Chung Hai? Bro does not exist in the book, and I got really annoyed at that. So that's like a point minus. And low key, a lot of the Untamed fandom annoy me because they constantly fight with people who read the book. Like, what? Like, not all of them, obviously, but a lot of them. I see a lot of them argue with book canon, and I'm like, why are you arguing with book canon when book canon is book canon? It is the original. It is the original fucking material. It's the book. So another minus point for that. And I also did not like the ending because what the fuck do you mean Wang Shen? It's not even that they have to end up together because the Donghua is also censored, but the Wang Shen still walked away together. You know, like in the end of the Donghua is censored. It is not explicitly showing Wang Shen, but Wang Shen is still together by the end of it. They're still walking away from the chaos together. Why in the Untamed they go separate ways? Why would they do that? I got so annoyed when I watched that ending because I was like, what? How is that the ending? What the hell? What? So yeah, that's a minus point. So it's a 7. Like it was a fun watch. I did enjoy watching it. I love the little Wang Shen moments that would play Wu Ji in the background, or Wang Xian. I did enjoy that, but I got annoyed by a few points, so 7 out of 10. But it was a fun watch. I decided I'm only watching the donghua. I love the donghua. The donghua is so peak. I love the donghua so much. Like, I wouldn't like if you watch if you like want Wangshin content, then I would encourage watching the Untamed, sort of. But if you want something true to the book, I recommend the donghua. Like, there are some parts of the donghua that are not the same in the book, definitely, but it is much more loyal to the book rather than the Untamed. The Untamed is like it's a whole other thing. To be honest, I'm annoyed because literally the Model Zusha is literally the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation. Why in the Untamed, the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation is this some old man that is supposed to be the descendant of fucking Shu Yang? Who the fuck is this old ass man? Why is Wei Wuxian not the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation? Why did they change that? That annoyed me so badly. Like, they could have changed anything else, but why did they change that? Why is the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation some old man we don't even know? But I did like the fact that we saw Baoshan Sanren in the Untamed. We have the glimpse of Baoshan Sanren. And I do like Lan Yi. I will accept Lan Yi in this range of OCs the Untamed has put us in. I will accept Lan Yi. But not Shu Chong Hai. That man pisses me off. Why does he exist? Anyway. Continue on with the donghua chat. It is peak shit and I love it. Ugh, oh my god. I've always thought Wuxian was the Grandmaster. That's because he is! That is because he is! Wei Wuxian is the Grandmaster of Demonic Cultivation or Ghost Cultivation. For some reason, in the Untamed, they changed that plot, and they made it in someone named fucking Shu Chung Hai. Why? Dude? So, yeah. I'm on App 3, Season 3. Oh, the donghua? Ooh, which one is App 3? I haven't watched the donghua in a month, which is actually crazy because I used to rewatch it almost every single week. I love the donghua so much. The Untamed with Death pissed me off. I mean, it's a genuinely fun watch if you want like extended, like Moda Zusha content that is not focused on Wangshan, because it is not Wangshan. It doesn't have Wangshan much because again it's censored. You can't have married Wangshan in there because it's censored. But if you want like longer versions, because every episode is 40 to 50 minutes and there's like 50 episodes, so like if you want like a long version of like shit, then I would recommend the Untamed. But like if you want something loyal to the book, I would recommend the donghua, definitely. Plus, personally, the donghua is easier to watch because I don't like watching people's faces. Animated things are easier for me to process. Watching people's face contort in sadness and anger cringes me. Makes me cringe. But that's a me thing. Anywho, I'm reading a fanfic. Where the fuck am I in this fanfic? I think I'll try watching it and you should. Don't force yourself though if it really isn't your cup of tea. But I would recommend watching the donghua first. And if you've read the book, I would recommend the book first and foremost. I would recommend the books first, then the donghua, and the MDZSQ, or the MDZS chibi versions, because those are cute. And then the Untamed. I would recommend you to watch the Untamed last. What's it called? What, the book? You're so sweet. Thank you. I don't really know what I did. I would recommend you read the books first, then the Donghua, then make the Untamed last. Because the Untamed is very much... Oh, Chibi! It's MDZSQ. It's the easiest name. MDZS, and then just the letter Q. Oh, the fanfic! Okay. It is, Putting the Dog to Sleep by Mellow Mango. It is a Dead Chia fic, because I love Dead Chia. We love Dead Chia in this household. Where was I? Okay. Everything else felt cold. But as Dazai lay awake that night, listening to Chia's heart beating steadily under his ear, the cold slowly went away. It was replaced by a new thought. One to replace the old. It filled his soul with warmth, melting away the pain, and he was finally able to close his eyes. At least I haven't lost him. Don't lie to me if you're putting the dog to sleep. That pet you just couldn't keep and couldn't afford. I'll cry if I read Dead Chia. I love Dead Chia. I feel like every single Dead Chia fic I've cried. I've cried. I've read, not cry. Rem, I'm gonna cry. My bad, bro. He's not even dead yet. I'm like barely halfway through the fic. This is a long fic. I love this fic. It's one of my fucking favorites. I reread it a lot. It brings joy to me. Dazai Osamu never cried. This was a fact that everybody assumed. Knowing the man. He was the demon prodigy. The man who struck fear into his opponents with sharp wits and dangerous skills. He had a happy trigger finger. Recklessly killing, destroying enemies that walked on his path. Wait, is fanfic just like a normal book or is like manga? What? Fanfic is fanfiction. What? Wait, what do you mean by that? I'm confused. What? Wait. Like the layout. Oh! AO3. It's an area layout. I guess. Just words. Just words. I don't like... Okay. It's AO3. So just words. I honestly am not a big fan of comics. Like, I get why people prefer comics. Like, they love visuals. I'm just not a person who prefers visuals, not gonna lie. Like, if the visuals are there, I would obviously look at them and enjoy them. But I've always preferred just words, not gonna lie. I don't know why. Anyway. Where was I? Right. He was a shell of a man, a soul torn into too many pieces, from lives he had taken, the light gone from his eyes. But really, nobody knew Dazai Osamu, because he cried 2 weeks ago when Oda died, and he was crying now, but he brought it upon himself. He'd left the Port Mafia just hours ago, leaving behind the life he'd so carefully constructed for the past 3 years, with just a few belongings and Oda's last words. But he hadn't realized just how empty everything would feel. The weight of his actions was bearing down on him, eating him alive. He knew he'd done the right thing, and it would be worth it in the end, but nothing could stop the pain he was feeling. My attention span is so low, so I can't read something with a lot of words without seeing pictures. That makes sense. That's fair. I have a really imaginative head. Like, I can imagine, like, I have, like, a really, I don't know, imaginative mind. So, I can visualize words. I don't know how to explain it, but, like, Dazai Angst. I don't like Daza Angst, actually. Actually, I love Tria Angst. Because Tria is my favorite character. I love making Tria die and then Dazai suffering, but, you know. Anyway, where was I? Because he'd made a mistake of going to Bar Lupin. One last time, for old time's sake. To relive all the memories he would never experience again. But instead of Oda and Ongo, it was Tria that sat there, slumped over the bar countertop. Empty glasses and a wine bottle spread out in front of him. Dazai wished he wasn't so observant, because maybe then he wouldn't have noticed the dried tear tracks on the redhead's face, or his thumb hovering over his phone on the contact with the name Mackerel. But he did notice, and his heart sank. He gazed around the bar, making sure nobody was there. Then he walked forward, carefully prying the phone from Tria's hands, trying not to wake him. He swiped out of the tab, scrolling through their messages, and there it was. 1922. Where are you? I have a new bottle, Petrus 1889, and that I need help finishing. 2 missed calls. 2045. Are you okay? 2055. Where are you? 3 missed calls. 2101. Oh my god. 2102. Why aren't you picking up? 8 missed calls. 2208. Please be okay. 27 missed calls. 149. I hate you. Dazai stared at the screen, gritting his teeth. He swiped back to the original tab and placed the phone back in Tria's hand. His fingers lingering there for a moment, he gazed at Tria's face, so relaxed in his slumber that he knew was an illusion. Tria was devastated. He knew Tria better than anybody else, and he knew that the man would never drink like this in public by himself. He was completely defenseless, vulnerable. Only Dazai had truly seen Tria when defenses were down, and seeing his old partner like this, without him, was a punch to the gut. It was as if Tria had given up, and this was what Dazai was worried about. How the redhead would react in his absence. It was worse than he thought, and the reality of it pained him deeply. But Dazai had done it himself, so he had no right to feel sad or worried. But he felt that way anyways. Because he was a bad person. He was selfish. And that's exactly why he had to leave. To try and better himself for Oda's sake. But here, standing in a bar filled with painful memories, his last friend passed out because of the harm he caused. It was hard to remember why he left. But he remembered anyways. The damage had already been done, so he took his black coat off his shoulders, draping it over Tria, and forced himself to walk out of the door, leaving behind not only his most precious memories, but his only remaining friend. God, it hurt. It was better than feeling nothing. But he felt like he was falling apart, suffocating all alone. The feeling grew even worse as he felt the heat of the explosion and watched Tria's car go up in flames. Shikoku! Yeah! He had hammered the final nail in the coffin of his and Tria's broken friendship, with a bomb meant to plant a seed of fury and hate. His ears were still ringing from the explosion, and he smelled like smoke as he tumbled into his new apartment, struggling to breathe through his remorse, but standing in the living room with nothing but tears. With nothing but tears running down his cheeks made it even worse, as the weight of what he had threatened to crush. What? Oh, okay. As the weight of what he'd done threatened to crush him under its gravity. Where can I read Stormbringer online? I think you just search Stormbringer PDF. I think you'll find somewhere. I'm not sure where I found Stormbringer actually. Go to a site called Archive. And search Stormbringer in there. I think you'll find it. Is it actually true that Dazai blew up his car? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dazai blowing up Chuya's car is canon. But Chuya thinking Dazai was dead in the 4 years he left was also canon. Yeah. Okay. Everyone except for Chuya would be shocked if they saw him now. Because he was crying, standing in an apartment that was too empty, void of any other human presence. He was crying because those warm arms that had always been there to comfort him before were no longer reaching for him. He was crying because there wouldn't be anybody to wake him from his nightmares any longer, and he would go back to sleepless nights on a bed that was too cold. Chuya seemed happy when he met Daza again. Probably. He was like, oh my god, you're alive. He was crying because the one remaining person that knew he cried just like anybody else was no longer in his life. I just joined. Why is there angst? Hi chat, I'm reading Dead Chuya fanfiction. It's one of my favorite fanfics. I'm reading it aloud. I'm not even halfway through. I'm like literally like a third into the fic. This is actually a pretty good fic. But you'll just have to wait. Wait. Oh my god, I hate this damn iPad. I can't see shit. I thought you were my friend Ray, Miss Ray, because they have the same profile picture as they. Haven't seen the bruh in a long time actually. Oh my god, notifications. Hello. I low-key forgot. Anyway. Oh, right, I have to make a reaction video because I promised. I promised a reaction video for 15k. I gotta do that, not gonna lie. I'll do that tomorrow, somehow. Anyway, go back, where am I? I'm going back to the fic. Actually 16 seconds late in the live. Okay. Okay. Who they gonna react to? It's gonna be Dazai reacting to my latest video of Chuya and Oda. People have been requesting it, and I promised it for 15k, so, and I reached 15k, so yippee! So I'll make it tomorrow, I think. Okay, where was I? Right. And it was all his fault. Of course it was. He knew from the beginning that he was a curse, nothing but a burden, to whichever unfortunate soul happened to stumble their way into his life. No matter what path he walked, he was always losing someone, destroying everything around him. The hole in his heart had grown bigger, yet again, and the darkness inside him was festering, ripping the stitches of careful trust he had built between him and his only remaining friend. And little did he know that even 4 years later, when they reunited as Double Black to fight against the foreigners threatening the city they loved, their trust would still be shattered. After all, stitches don't sew themselves. Well, prove to me I'm not gonna die alone. Unstitch the shit I've sewn to close up the hole that tore through my skin. Chuya, there's something I want you to hear before I die. Dazai was looking at Chuya with a grave expression, his back pressed into the tree behind him, hiding his arm from view. He'd missed this, fighting by the redhead's side, and letting his childishness come to the surface was something he'd never expect to miss over the past 4 years. But it was. He couldn't dwell on that for too long, however. A large creature belonging to the guild was looming behind Shia, seemingly growing with every second that passed. But Dazai had it under control. His heart lurched at the expression on Shia's face. Something enraged and familiar. Oh good. Excuse me. As the man lunged towards Dazai. What the hell? This isn't your place to... Boo! Dazai said with a flourish, raising his arm, which was hidden from Chia's view. The redhead scowled and grabbed Dazai by the shirt, hoisting him up as he laughed, raising his arms in mock surrender. I'm going to a fight injured. Why wouldn't I do this? Chia lifted his fist up threateningly, then put it down and instead pointed behind him. I remember this moment? Yes, but this is a bit different from what happened in canon, and I absolutely love this. Okay, anyway. And then put it down and instead pointing behind him to where that large tentacled beast was looming menacingly over them both. Why don't you stop wasting your time on magic tricks and start thinking on how we're going to deal with that nightmare? Dazai smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. No way. Let's just give up and die. Chia's fist tightened in Dazai's shirt at that, and his gaze hardened. But he remained silent, eyes searching Dazai's. The brunette relented and sighed. There were no other options. We only have one more course of action. I'm scared now. Don't tell me. Chia released his grip on Dazai's shirt as his eyes widened. It was as if Dazai could see the gears turning in Chia's brain. You're going to do something disgraceful. Dazai looked down at Chia, face turning serious again as he recalled the Dragon's Head conflict. It was after we wrecked an entire organization overnight that we started being called the devastating rivals. He shoved his hands in his pockets and gazed at Chia evenly. But if I'm late to support you, you'll die. Chia's face Chia's face paled at that, and Dazai backtracked his words. I'll let you choose. The redhead's eyes flitted away, and then he looked down at his feet. You let me choose? He asked quietly. It was surprisingly uncharacteristic. The fire that was always present in Chia seemed to be dimmer now, and Dazai didn't know why, but he refused to let his confusion show. The silence stretched between them as Dazai kept his eyes on the creature behind Chia, waiting for it to strike. But the next words that Chia spoke made Dazai's eyes focus on him instead. I'm not doing it. Dazai's eyes widened as Chia clenched his fists. You're not? Chia lifted his head then, eyes piercing into Dazai's with a burning intensity. You said you'd let me choose. Dazai paused, then nodding slowly. That's my choice. Dazai wasn't able to get his next sentence out as he tackled Chia to the ground in a flash of white light. Tentacles slashing out and barely missing the redhead, whose back was turned to the monster. He rolled over Chia in his efforts not to crush him, and the redhead scrambled to his feet, reactivating his ability, and launched himself towards the beast. Chia! Dazai yelled, on his hands and knees. But the redhead wasn't listening, instead diving head-on into battle. He simply stared in shock as Chia tried to fight the creature, but he couldn't do enough, not without corruption. And I'm already starting to cry. Don't cry, bruh. The man didn't even have his knife. Dazai had snatched it from him earlier. Dazai got up from the ground, ready to rush in and strike Chia, but in the corner of his eye he saw a person running. That blonde brat. Dazai was faster, with longer legs, and he easily caught up to the guild member, the monstrous partner yanking the monster's partner yanking him towards... What? Oh, I'm so dumb. Anyway, he easily caught up to the guild member, the monster's partner, yanking him backwards and holding Chia's knife to his throat. Not so fast. Dazai practically growled. He pressed the knife lightly to the boy's throat as he tensed up in fear. What is that thing? The blonde grabbed Dazai's arm, trying to pull it away. But Dazai was stronger. And he grunted in pain as Dazai shoved him back against a tree. The boy scowled at Dazai. Why would I tell you? Dazai tilted his head. I'm not sure if you're aware, but you are at a very heavy disadvantage here. His mind was whirling, as he was so very aware that Chia fighting behind him. Self-control slowly slipping. He pressed the very tip of the blade into the boy's neck, the blade breaking skin and letting blood drip out. I can slit your throat at any moment and take your life, leaving your partner alone. You can wallow in your own misery and hell knowing that you were too useless to help him. Or you can tell me his weakness, and I'll spare you some mercy. Unexpectedly, the boy's resolve seemed to strengthen with Dazai's words. You can kill me, if you must. I wouldn't sell out my partner like that. I wouldn't sell out my partner like that anyways. Lovecraft will be just fine alone. I have faith in him. He smirked evilly, and his eyes looked behind Dazai. I can't say that your partner feels the same way about you. I love that line. I love that line so much. At that, Dazai followed the boy's gaze and turned to look at Chia. He was fighting with a look of pure self-determination. But no matter how determined he was, it was evident that he was losing, because that creature kept regenerating. I imagined this. And his stamina was slowly decreasing. He needed Dazai. The detective turned his piercing gaze back to the guild member and held his knife steadily, willing himself not to slide it right across his throat. He'd done it so many times before, and it would be easy, so easy, to just get it over with. Add another murder to his endless list of crimes. But he was stronger than this. He knew that. He had to stay true to his purpose, the whole reason why he was living this very moment in the first place. So instead, he let his thoughts switch to Oda's face as he brought the knife away from the boy's neck. You're right. You're right, Dazai said simply. The guild member only had a moment. Looked down, eyes widening in fear as Dazai pulled out a remote from his pocket. Wait. With a press of the button, Dazai shoved the boy away from him, and he tumbled behind a tree to take cover as the creature exploded from the inside, courtesy of the... Oh my god, why am I stumbling so much? I think Chia's gonna die right now. No, he does not die here. Look. I'm not even a third of this fic. This is where I'm at right now in the fic. That little line right here, that's where I am in the fic. It's not done till I'm over here. Shit. Till I'm over here. I am not even a third. I'm not even halfway through, actually. This is a really long fic. I absolutely love this fic. He does not die here, chat. I'm stumbling over my words so much right now, though. It's actually crazy. With the press of the button, Dazai shoved the boy away from him, and he tumbled behind a tree to take cover as the creature exploded from the inside, courtesy of the bomb set by Dazai. The brunette covered his ears, as he should have, and he should have shielded his eyes, but instead he looked towards the explosion. He doesn't die early. Where Chia was hovering above the creature. Both of Chia's arms were raised now, and he floated higher before, hurtling towards the creature with alarming fast speed, using his ability to weigh it down and tear it apart. gravity crushing it from the inside out and finishing their battle. In the haze of black smoke that erupted after the explosion, Dazai peered through and saw Chuya, kneeling on the ground. There was a large indent on the ground, and the creature lay mangled on the other side of the clearing after being crushed by gravity. Dazai set his jaw, walked over to Chuya, handing the knife back to him, handle first. Chuya took it reluctantly, not meeting Dazai's eyes. They remained silent for a few moments as the smoke cleared, until Dazai decided to speak. "You didn't use corruption," he said quietly. Chuya stood shakily, brushing the dirt off his pants. "Good observation, detective," he muttered sarcastically, sheathing the knife and shoving his hands in his pockets. Dazai looked at Chuya, but the redhead still refused to make eye contact, instead staring very intently at a tree branch off to the side. The realization Dazai had made all those years ago was circling back to him now, piercing him in the chest just as hard as it had before. "You don't trust me." It should have been a question, but it came out as a statement, because Dazai already knew the answer to that question. Chuya hesitated for a moment, his eyes finally meeting Dazai's. "No, I don't." I love that. I love this. Like, this exchange of lines, I absolutely love. When I first read this, I was like, oh my god, I love this fic. This fic changed your trust. I love this fic so much. I'm gonna read that actually again. I love this exchange of going, "You don't trust me," and Chuya responding, "No, I don't." It's so good. I absolutely actually adore it. Like, I think John, the blonde guild member, I loved when he said, where was that one line? I loved this one line where John says, "You can kill me if you must. I wouldn't sell out my partner like that anyways. Lovecraft will be fine alone. I have faith in him. I can't say that your partner feels the same way about you." Ah! Oh my god, that line. I love that so fucking much, dude. Oh my god, I adore this fic so badly. The author of this fic is so good with words. It is. They're so good. They're so good, chat. Like, oh my god. Oh my god. I absolutely adore this fic. Anyway. Okay, I'm gonna continue. Let's continue. The words hung in the air for a moment. Tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. "You should, it's so good." Chuya broke eye contact and walked past Dazai, back into the building on the edge of the clearing. Dazai watched as the redhead hoisted up Q and their doll. Dazai had forgotten that they were there for Q in the first place, and walked back towards Dazai. Dazai forced himself to look away from Chuya and instead at Q's doll, his insurance, as he called it, so that the Port Mafia wouldn't kill him. The redhead seemed to read his mind, and he paused for a moment, then wordlessly handed the doll to Dazai, eyes still staring at the ground. At least that meant that Chuya didn't want the Port Mafia to kill Dazai. But something between them was still so twisted and wrong. It was as if the very strings holding the reality together were snapping, threatening to lash out and crush the men where they stood. And those strings did snap, as Chuya quickly pulled away his hand when their fingers brushed over the doll, as if the mere touch of Dazai's skin, even through his glove, had burned him. Chuya simply ignored him and turned away without a word. He hoisted Q up higher on his back and continued on his path, walking slowly and shakily into the opposite direction of Dazai, leaving the detective standing all alone. Dazai clutched onto the doll like a lifeline as he watched Chuya go. This was another rare time where he was feeling something. But he hated the emotions flooding through him. He usually craved them due to their rarity, but right now he wanted that numbness back. didn't want the view of his partner walking away from him to tear him apart, but it did. It felt like the self-inflicted hole in his heart was growing bigger with every moment that passed. The gap between him and his old partner growing larger and larger. I can't say that your partner feels the same way about you. Dazai clenched his fist at the memory of those nasty words, because they were correct. Chia didn't have faith in him anymore, because Dazai had destroyed that precious and genuine trust that was between them for 3 years. He looked down at the ugly doll and it smiled lifelessly back at him, as if it was taunting him. It had frayed edges and bloodied eyes. It was whole, stitches sewn tightly and held together firmly. Nothing like him and Chia's relationship. It was torn to so many pieces it was barely recognizable. Stitches torn and broken. Dazai desperately needed to fix their relationship, to sew the stitches that had been torn, or else they would both fall into the endless cycle of destruction, just like the doll in his hands had brought chaos when it was ripped apart. Ah! Oh my god, this author, I love them so much, dude. The way they word things, I love them. I've read this fic so many times you don't even know. Well, my trust in you is a dog with a broken leg. Tendons too torn to beg for you to let me back in. Zach, like, oh my god, they're wording. I love them so much. I adore them. Anyway, Dazai was most definitely not following Chia. It was purely coincidence, of course, that every mission Chia carried out, Dazai was there too. He didn't track down the redhead's every move to jump at the opportunity to talk to him and gain his trust back. Of course not. Dazai just coincidentally happened to be near Port Mafia territory and stumbled upon Chia, who was staggering across the dark street. And even more coincidental that Dazai got close enough to catch Chia when he fell. Chia grunted as he fell into Dazai's firm arms, then looked up and practically jumped away, landing on his unsteady legs and falling over again. What the fuck are you doing here? The brunette evaluated Chia. He didn't appear to have any external injuries. His clothes were all intact, albeit a bit wrinkled, and his skin was unscathed, but he had been stumbling along weakly for the past 20 minutes, after fighting off some guild lackeys. No, Dazai definitely did not follow him for that long. And he was clearly sober, so his body was just weak, which was uncharacteristic. Personal business, Dazai said simply, extending a hand out to help Chia up. Why are you staggering around in the middle of the night like some classless drunkard? He's not drunk. And he was clearly sober, so. He's not drunk, chat. He's not drunk. He's not drunk. Okay. Why are you staggering around in the middle of the night like some classless drunkard? I'm not drunk, Chia muttered, staring at Dazai's hand as if it offended him, but seemingly put his stubbornness aside as he took it and let Dazai help him up. I'm injured. Dazai raised an eyebrow. You don't look injured. Chia sighed deeply, beginning to awkwardly hobble forward. Oh, excuse me. Oh my god. There we go. You don't look injured. Chia sighed deeply, beginning to awkwardly hobble forward as Dazai helped him along. Well, I sure as hell feel injured. I got in a single fight and my body feels like it's wasting away. He grumbled frustratedly. But you didn't accuse corruption, Dazai murmured. No, Chia gasped in pain, knees buckling, but Dazai supported his weight, keeping him from hitting the ground. He stilled for a moment, then pulled himself back up, leaning away from Dazai slightly. Even if I wanted to use corruption, I don't know if I'll be able to. Even if I wanted to. Dazai tried to not let those words sting, but they did anyways. They also made him immensely worried. because without corruption and without his usual strength, Shia was vulnerable. How long has this been going on for? No, Dazai asked carefully. About a year and a half. Chia grit out through clenched teeth. It's been getting worse recently though, when I overexert myself. My body just gives up on me. As Dazai helped Chia walk, he thought back on their fight with Lovecraft. Chia's stamina had been low, but his legs were shaking more than often after the fight. Dazai let his mind go back even further to the day that he had been shackled up in the Port Mafia basement. He'd been able to get a few more hits in on Chia than usual back then, but he'd blamed it on the fact that it was the first time they saw each other in 4 years. But now, he realized it was something else. Slowly, the pieces clicked together in Dazai's mind as more memories from the past resurfaced unwillingly. 4 years ago. 18 years old, a milestone that Dazai never thought he would hit. But here he was, still a member of the Port Mafia and Chia's partner. It should have been a good year, but it wasn't, because with age came change, and things between Dazai and Chia were changing. When they had been by each other's side all the time in the past, they just weren't as close anymore. They had other friends and other duties. There were more enemies, more missions, and there was less time to make trips to the arcade and have fun. And eventually, they just stopped. There were times when Chia would walk in on Dazai, wrists bleeding and bandages discarded. When it was in the past, he was there to stop Dazai long before he even picked up a razor. This time, though, was the worst. Dazai was a selfish person, so he was drinking at Lupin's with Oda and Ongo when it happened. He had a bad feeling in his gut, creeping into his chest like a parasite. Dazai had learned to trust his instincts, and they were quickly confirmed when his phone buzzed with a text from Chia. Just a single word. Is it also canon that Dazai cuts? I don't think so. I don't think it is. I am not sure, because I haven't read the Dazai-centric light novels, but I don't think it is. At least. I think that's just a headcanon. But again, I'm not sure. But personally, I don't think it is. Yeah, okay, where was I? Dazai stared, wondering if he was perhaps dyslexic. Because those... sorry. I forgot to read that. From Chia, just a single word. 2315. Help. Just help. Dazai stared, wondering if he was perhaps dyslexic. Because those 4 letters shouldn't be rearranged to spell out that word. But they are, and panic is slowly setting in. He quickly excused himself, grabbing his coat and running out in the cold air, leaving Oda and Ongo alone in the bar, their jaws gaping at him confusedly. That bad feeling had been settling on his bones all day. He had woken up to an empty bed, and hasn't seen a single sign of Chia all day. It wasn't common for Chia to go radio silent, like he had for so long, and even more uncommon to get a single word text from his partner, especially when that text was a call for help. But as Dazai stepped onto the streets, cold air nipping at his skin, his mind became clearer, and he realized that he didn't even know where to go. There were multiple possibilities, and he couldn't waste any precious time. Shakily taking out his phone again and trying to ignore the one-word text, Dazai called Chia. The phone rang once, twice, and then Dazai was filled with immediate relief as the call was picked up. Chia, where are you? Are you okay? I'm fine. The voice on the other end murmured, small and weak. Dazai tried his best not to pace as he waited for Chia to answer his other question. But silence met him. Where are you? Dazai asked again firmly, willing the panic not to show in his voice. Yeah, good. Excuse me. It was silent again for a little bit until Chia replied, fuck. Chia grasped sharply in pain. Daza gritted his teeth, digging his fingernails into his fist. Don't know. Warehouse. Daza started walking and then broke into a jog, breath coming fast as he sped up. He had a tiny inkling of an idea where Chia was, but he wasn't sure, and he couldn't waste any time. So he put the phone on speaker and texted Mori. Are you able to send your location, Chia? Dazai asked, feet pounding on the pavement. It was silent. Then a deep sigh came from the other end. No, can't move much. Alright. Wait, where do you read this? I want to actually read it so bad. It's on AO3. AO3. Archive of Around. AO3. My goated site, my beloved. It's on AO3. It's named, Putting the Dog to Sleep. By Mallow_Mango. It's a great fic chat. Yeah, where are they? Alright, that's okay. Don't wear yourself out. Can you see anything outside of the warehouse? Daze heard a grunt and some rustling from Chia's end. The sea. Yeah. The brunette burst into a sprint. He knew where Chia was now. It had been one of the possibilities in his mind, but he overlooked it because the redhead shouldn't have been there in the first place. It was dangerous territory, and the fact that he was there by himself was unforgivable, no matter how skilled he was. Chia, I'll be there soon. Just stay on the line, okay? Keep talking to me. Keep talking for me. Okay. Okay. The voice on the other end replied, and he sounded so tired. It pushed Dazai to run faster. His phone flashed with light, a text from Mori confirming his suspicion on Chia's location. What should I talk about? Dazai huffed and puffed, propelling himself over a tall fence which blocked his path, and he saw the warehouse come into view, sea shining in the distance. He kept to the shadows, unwilling to run into any hostilities. Anything. How your day went? How are you feeling right now? There was a feeble hum of contemplation from the other end of the line. Mori's the villain? More or less. Mori sucks, but what's new, really? Contemplation from the other end. The day was fine. It was silent for a beat. I'm kind of scared. The voice sounded even more distant. Dazai's eyes widened. Scared? Okay. Wait, it's called Putting the Dog to Sleep. Wait, I'm gonna show you. It's this one. Putting the Dog to Sleep by Mallow Mango. It's peak fic chat. It is very peak. Okay. B, have fun reading it, bro. It's very peak. I'm still gonna continue reading this out loud, though. He pressed himself back against the wall as he saw a shadow pass by, but it was just a raccoon skittering past. He released the breath he was holding and spoke in hushed tones as he continued to run again. Chia, is there anyone around? Is there anyone with you? Silence met his question. Fingers trembling, Dazai grit his teeth and kept his phone held up to his ear, making the final stretch towards the warehouse, almost tripping over his own feet in his haste. He slid sideways and almost fell over, his free hand skimming the ground, then ran through the open doors. It wasn't the most stealthy entrance, but bullet holes riddled the walls of the warehouse, letting moonlight trickle in to illuminate Chia. He was unmoving on the stone floor, phone in front of him. And Dazai didn't care if he had been seen. He didn't even spare a second glance to the bodies of GSS members that were littered about the warehouse. He dashed up to Tria and kneeled on the floor, hanging up the call. Still holding his phone, he slid his arms underneath Tria's form, hoisting him up. Tria? The redhead was still limp, but his eyelids were fluttering, a telltale sign that he was somewhat conscious. Dazai breathed a sigh of relief, holding onto him tight and carrying him outside of the warehouse. He slunk back into the shadows and knelt down, shakily dialing a number on his phone. The tightness in his chest released when he heard a female voice on the other end. Dazai? Ane-san. Dazai breathed. I need you to come get me and Shia. It's urgent. There was a pause on Koya's end. You and Shia. I didn't assign him any commissions today. Well, apparently Mori did. Dazai muttered through clenched teeth. We're in dangerous territory here. Although I think Tria took most of them out, the place is usually swarming with the GSS, so a ride would be appreciated. The GSS? What is Mori thinking? Koyo groaned. And Dazai could hear her grabbing a set of keys. Okay, hold on tight. Send me your exact location and I'll be there soon. Koyo reassured Dazai, her smooth voice slightly soothing his panic. He hung up and Dazai remained in the shadows, clinging on tight to Tria's limp form as he sent their location to Koyo. After Dazai hit the send button, he glanced at Tria. The redhead was breathing steadily and didn't seem to be seriously wounded. What chapter are you on? It only has one chapter, chat. I don't think you're on the look at the author if it's the same one, because the one I'm reading only has one chapter. There is another fic named Putting the Dog to Sleep. It is multi-chapter, but that's not the one I'm reading. This is a different one. Nope, not that one. It is not that one. It is a fic by Mallow Mango. That's a different one. I haven't read that one. I think you found this fic, chat. I think you found this one. And it's not this one, because this is unfinished. And, okay, it's this one. By Mallow Mango. By Mallow Mango, chat. This one. Oh. I almost fell. Okay, there we go. You can continue. Okay. Thanks, Tuka. Oh, of course, no problem. I love this fic and I love endorsing it. Okay, there we go. Wait, what? Dazai looked down at Shia, looking over his body for any sign of injury. He didn't notice any blood, perhaps a few bruises, but Shia looked more like he had gotten in a bar fight rather than a shootout between criminal organizations. But the redhead was pale, his cheekbones jutting out more than usual, and Dazai was worried. He didn't even notice how long he had remained there, a look of concern etched into his face, until a sleek back car pulled up. He walked up, careful not to jostle Chia too much, and opened the door. He gently set Chia down into the back seat and slid in next to him, shutting the car door. Koyo's eyes met Dazai's in the rearview mirror, her worried expression marring her beautiful face as she started driving. Oh god, I wanted to sneeze, but I stopped midway. That's so annoying. I wanted to sneeze. So annoying. I really, really wanted to sneeze. Give me a sec. My friend is texting me. Uh. Yeah. Where was I? Right. Okay. Koya's eyes met Dazai in the rearview mirror, her worried expression marring her beautiful face as she started driving. What happened? I don't know, Dazai admitted, buckling Tria's seatbelt over him. Something's wrong with him. He was still fully conscious before I got there. Dazai looked at Tria's limp form and pulled him closer, letting the executive's head rest on his shoulder. He doesn't seem to be seriously injured, but we need to get him to the infirmary. Chia won't die here, right? No, this is past. This is still Port Mafia Dazai, so he doesn't die here. This is just more so giving backstory and what's happening to Chia. Koya nodded, her eyebrows pinched in concern as she focused her eyes on the road. Okay. This is 18 Dazai and Chia, I think. The drive back to the Port Mafia headquarters was quick but tense, the only sound being Tria's labored breathing and the wind brushing outside of the car. As they arrived at their destination, Dazai didn't even wait for the car to come to a full stop before he unbuckled Tria's seatbelt and opened the door. Muttering a quick thanks to Koyo, he gently carried the redhead out and ran as fast as his legs could allow him to the infirmary. A nurse was walking in the hallway and Dazai almost bowled? I don't know how to read that. Her over, stumbling over his own feet. She looked at him with wide eyes and fear. Dazai tended to have that effect on people. But he didn't really care about that right now. Please help him. He's in bad shape. I need Mori. The nurse nodded, still stricken with fear, but a look of understanding came over her as she glanced at Tria's face. She reached over to press a button on the wall, alerting Mori. She hurriedly ushered Dazai into the open room, blindingly white and reeking of antiseptics and death. I have the urge to sneeze, but it just won't come out. Let me sneeze. Oh my god! Anyway. That's so annoying. I know! I've been wanting to sneeze, dude. Which line you at? I'm at... He wrinkled his nose, laying Tria down on the operating table. Give me a sec, my friend is texting me. My friend Levi says hi, chat. Okay. Okay, we're gonna continue back. He wrinkled his nose, laying Chia down on the operating table and squeezing the redhead's hand as the nurse hurried around, collecting tools for surgery, which meant that she was familiar with this, because it had happened before. Dazai stayed protectively by Chia's side, still holding onto his hand tightly, eyeing the surgical tools with barely disguised disgust. But the nurse kicked him out, her duties apparently overcoming her fears. Dazai gave Chia's hand one last squeeze and walked out to give the nurse her space, opening the door to step out to the infirmary. Opening the door to step out of the infirmary. But his exit was blocked by Mori, who was looming over him, dark expression in his eyes. Dazai simply shouldered past him, but then paused in the hallway, turning his head to look at the older man. You knew, didn't you? Dazai asked quietly. Mori raised his eyebrows. You what, exactly? Dazai kept his expression carefully blank, that his body didn't fully heal after you made him use corruption so many times. You're a doctor. You're always operating on him, but you kept sending him on missions despite his weakened state. Mori quietly shut the door to Chia's temporary room, raising an apologetic hand to the nurse and faced Dazai, crossing his arms and shrugging. I did know. But, as the leader of the Port Mafia, I must make decisions that are in our best interests. Using his abilities the quickest, easiest, most convenient way to carry out our business. Why are you so angry? Is that not my duty as your leader? Dazai grit his teeth. You're doing the exact same thing the sheep... Ow, my god. Dazai gritted his teeth. You're doing the exact same thing the sheep did. Using him and putting him on a pedestal solely because of... Oh my god. Why am I stumbling so much? Ah! Holy fuck. Why am I stumbling so much, bruh? Let me read peacefully. Let me read this fic peacefully, my god. Okay. Let me read that back. Oh my god. Okay. Dazai gritted his teeth. You're doing the exact same thing the sheep did. Using him and putting him on a pedestal solely because his ability has what? Shockingly strong competitive power? We have an entire crew of specially trained assassins and henchmen to carry out missions, Mori. There are other options here. Let his body heal. I think because you're reading a lot of words, probably. Mori-san. Mori corrected Dazai, a dangerous glint in his eyes. There are other options. You're right. But Nakahara-kun is our trump card. The best option. He has proved himself over and over again to be extremely useful, especially in taking our enemies by surprise. Mori shoved his hand in the pockets of his lab coat and smirked. And mind you, I never forced him to do anything. He has been accepting these missions willingly, asking me for them even. Did you ever take what he wants into consideration, Dazai-kun? Mori, you bitch. Oh my god, I love you, but you're a bitch. Anyway. Dazai fell silent at that, because Mori was right. He hadn't taken into consideration how Chuya felt, but he knew that Chuya jumped at every chance to try and prove that he was worthy. He was not only stubborn, but extremely loyal. He would go to the ends of the earth to protect his people. He would die for his people. Mori knew that. They were treading dangerous ground here, and Dazai felt helpless for once. He usually always knew what to do, but his partner's overwhelming sense of trust and devotion was making him grasp at straws, as it always did. No, I didn't take that into consideration, Dazai admitted softly. But I do know that he's important to me. Mori's eyes widened fractionally, and Dazai felt a rush of triumph at the sight. And I will do everything in my power to make sure that you don't use and dispose of him. To make sure that you don't use and dispose of him like those insolent kids did. He's more than just a weapon. Get your mans, Dazai. I support you, ho. Mori stayed silent in shock for a moment, then let his features fall back into a smirk. Such big words. If you keep saying things like that, people might think that you care for him, Dazai-kun. Green flag in treatment. Yeah! Dazai narrowed his eyes and spoke without hesitation. And would that be so wrong if I did? Mori's smirk grew even bigger at that. He does be quiet, Mori. Mori's smirk grew even bigger at that. I never said that. He broke eye contact and waved his hand flippantly. Excuse me. Dismissing Dazai as he opened the door to Tria's room. Now leave me be. I have a patient waiting for treatment. As the door shut, leaving Dazai alone in the empty and cold hallway, he dug his fingernails into his fist, hard enough to hurt. He was burning with hatred. Hatred towards Mori. Hatred towards the world. Oh, bye-bye. Bye-bye, chat. You can read the fic on your own now. It's a fun read. You should. It's absolute peak. It's absolute peakness. Of course. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, chat. Have fun. Okay. Honestly, it also made me cry the first time I read it. So, that's positively good feedback. Bye-bye! Okay. Oh my god, we're back to the present. Let's go. Okay. He was burning with hatred. Hatred towards Mori, hatred towards the world, hatred towards himself. He turned around and lifted his head, eyes meeting Koyo's, who was standing in the hallway. He just shook his head, urging her not to confront Mori. Not right now. Dazai forced himself to walk away, matching Koyo step for step as her delicate hand came to rest on his shoulder. Didn't give him the same warmth and comfort that Tria's hands did. Present. We're back at the present! Okay. With each memory that came flooding back, Dazai was being crushed by unforgiving guilt. 4 years ago, he had said he would do everything in his power to make sure that Mori didn't use the redhead as a weapon, but he left him. Dazai had left him with Mori, and now Tria's body was still trying to heal after being pushed to its limits over and over again. He didn't stay true to his word. He failed Tria. But unfortunately, he couldn't change the past. Dazai tried to push his regrets to the back of his mind, realizing he'd stopped walking, and Tria was looking at him questioningly. Corruption has been making your body weaker, he murmured, starting to walk again. I haven't used it in 4 years, then, Tria pointed out, hobbling along with Dazai's help. You're right, but Dazai trailed off. As you grow older, your body gets worse and worse at repairing itself, so I haven't been healing properly this entire time, Tria murmured. Yeah. His heart twisted painfully at how utterly defeated Tria looked. I knew that my body was weak. I've had more surgeries than I can count on both my hands. Tria gritted his teeth and hung his head, red hair obstructing Dazai's view of his face. It's all my fault. I kept pushing my ability to overcompensate for my weaknesses. Dazai always had hate in his heart for Mori, but it was festering as the feeling of protectiveness rose along with it. None of this was your fault. It's... Tria looked at him. Hello! Hello, I'm reading a fanfic. I'm reading a Sukoku fanfic. Yippee. To avoid confusion, I'm gonna give a bit of context. Where was I? Yeah. Tria's body has been deteriorating from the use of constant use of corruption during their Port Mafia days. And in the 4 years of Dazai's absence, his body has not been healing properly, so he's been weak. For context, of course. Tria looked up at him, and Dazai bit the inside of his cheek. He couldn't say it was Mori's fault, because Tria wouldn't agree. He would likely get shoved away for playing the blame game. It's simply the duties of a Port Mafia executive. Tria nodded, because Dazai himself knew that was what it was like. The difference between them and Tria's extreme sense of loyalty. And Dazai... The difference between them was that Tria... Ah, my god. The difference between them was Tria's... Oh my god! It is one single phrase! Why am I having such a hard time reading it? The difference between them was oh my god! I need to get a grip. The difference between them was Tria's extreme sense of loyalty. And Dazai hated that the redhead was still being used. A puppet in the hands of a dangerous man. But it was also Dazai's fault. Because their matching abilities made it so Tria's limits were solely reliable on Dazai himself. And there was nothing he could do to change it. He didn't know what to do to cut Tria free from this endless cycle of lock and chain. Tria was a pawn in this fatal game of chess that Dazai and Mori were playing. And he didn't know how to end it. He didn't even know if he could. All he could do was support Tria's weight as they walked closer and closer to Port Mafia headquarters. But Dazai heard footsteps, and his eyes widened, muscles tensing as his fight-or-flight instinct kicked in. But he hesitated, not wanting to leave Tria alone. Tria felt his hesitation and looked up at him, eyes shining in the moonlight. "Just go," he whispered. "You shouldn't be seen here." Dazai's eyes widened. Tria could easily keep Dazai here, let the Port Mafia take him in as prisoner. As a prisoner yet again. Or even kill him. But Tria didn't do that. He was giving Dazai an out. He didn't deserve one now, and he didn't deserve one when Tria gave him Q's doll that day. Tria had given him more than enough chances. But Dazai never wasted an opportunity to... But Dazai never wasted an opportunity that was given to him. So he nodded and let go reluctantly. As the footsteps came closer, he stepped back carefully. And once he made sure Tria was able to stand on his own, he took one last look at those blue eyes, now glistening in the moonlight. They turned on his heel and ran away. Right as he disappeared into the shadows of the night, he heard voices calling Tria's name. And he knew that Tria would be safe for now, with his people. And the somewhat sad look in Tria's eyes before Dazai ran away had made the brunette want to stay. But Dazai had no place there. Not anymore. Oh my god, my phone is low battery. My phone is low battery. Oh my god. Oh my god. I can't read anymore. My phone is low battery. Ugh. Okay. I'm gonna end the stream here. Bye bye, chat. Bye bye.